Hey, everybody. I am licensed marriage and family therapist, Dr. Lauren Pitts. I'm also a sports mental health empowerment coach, as you all know. It's my amazing co-host, Ronnie Ransome Jr. Welcome back. This is House Talk Pregame. Happy
Welcome
Saturday,
back.
Ronnie.
And it's warming up. It's a beautiful
Yes,
day out here in Virginia.
indeed,
How's your
indeed.
how's your week been so far?
It's been intense. I'm not even gonna lie. I'm just checking real quick to see what the weather is. I can tell from the temperature inside the house that, okay, it's saying that it's 66 degrees right now and it's overcast skies. It feels warmer than that.
Mm,
But yeah, we're definitely seeing signs of the weather breaking. We had a couple of days, we had one day where it was like 81, 82, 78, 79. So we're starting to see that upswing of the temperature every day. And I'm so happy about it. I am so happy about it. But Ronnie, I asked a couple of my clients yesterday, I said, is it me or has the moon been full all year?
it
Like,
it's
it
funny
feels
you
like
say
it.
that. In February, I was like, for like almost 10 days straight, I was like, man, we've had a full moon for almost 10 days. Like, what's going on
Yeah,
here? Like, and
yeah.
it seemed like I always laugh and joke and say Mercury must be stuck in retrograde because you can tell like it's just something in the air on certain days where it's just like people like they get a whiff
Mm-hmm.
of something and they
Yep.
wild out. Like it
Yeah.
gets crazy. But
It definitely has been it's, intense, like really intensely crazy. And I'm like, okay,
yeah,
I don't know what's going on, but whoo,
yeah, nah. But it's March. Spring is only 15
madness,
days
March
away.
madness in the air,
Oh
March
yeah. I
madness.
think selection Sunday is next weekend. Yeah,
Next
next
weekend.
weekend is selection Sunday. So,
Yep,
got the
yep.
conference championships this week. We're
Mm-hmm.
going to get in more on that as well about the HBCU conference championships from basketball
Yes.
last weekend and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
But look, y'all, as much as we love to chop it up about everyday stuff, you know why we're here. We're here to talk about sports and mental health. And we have a really good topic for today because
Yeah.
we always talk about hearing people talking about trust the process and stuff like that. But what does that really mean when we talk about an athlete's success? Oftentimes, the moments that you're most proud of are the ones that go unnoticed. They often don't involve medals or music or pom-pom circumstances or, crowds and all that. It's the quiet victories that really matter. Building a culture of trust, though, is imperative if we want our teams to reach their fullest potential. Excellence doesn't happen by accident. And so, with that being said, any sustainable success we achieve is directly related to the processes we conceive. Good processes are what drive good results. So we need to help athletes learn to trust the process. And so we're going to be talking about that.
Yes.
What it looks like to trust the process and what is that process? What is the process of reaching athletic success? What does that look like
Mm-hmm.
on the field or on the court, off the field, in the classroom, in your community, at home, whatever the case may be? All these
In
things
your
that go
mind.
in your mind as well.
Yep.
All these things that translate to an athlete's success and things. So we're going to be talking about that. We also have our mental health tip of the week, as always. We have some HBCU news to get into as well. So let's go ahead and get the show started. So, Dr. Pitts, do you want to start off our mental health tip of the week?
I do. And you know what, Ronnie? I was just so the word, I don't want to say excited, but this topic is just like a really big deal to me. And believe it or not, my mental health tip of the week actually just sort of dropped on me on Monday. And I
Uh-oh.
actually typed it up. Yep, I typed it up because I wanted to make sure that I said it exactly the way that it came to me in the moment. So it's been said that anything worth having is worth working for. It's also been said that therapy works when you work it. Here's the
Mm,
context that I'm talking about. Pain hurts, and healing from it can hurt too, depending on the severity of the injury. And that's emotional or physical, right?
mm-hmm.
And just like in physical therapy, Ronnie, it's necessary to work out or exercise whatever limb or muscle that was injured. The same applies for your emotional muscles. In order to
Mm,
heal from trauma, emotional or physical, it's necessary to work your emotional muscles, confronting the emotional pain in your life in a healthy way, improving your sense of self, taking your power back from the adverse experiences you've had, choosing to break negative relational behavior patterns, challenging cognitive distortions, silencing the internal negative narratives, doing the self work to make the shift from being insecurely attached to being securely attached. Undoubtedly, There are encounters of varying degrees of pain, but I'm sure you've also heard it said, no pain, no gain. It's virtually impossible to heal properly if you don't trust the process and allow Ronnie, myself, or our colleagues all over the world to gently and safely guide you through your emotional healing process. Healing is a choice. And I think that it's also important for people, Ronnie, to understand as we're sort of educating them and empowering them to understand how they can navigate this process of academic success and to share the glory that they experience while they're embracing this process. I really do believe, Ronnie, that it requires people to shift their perception and shift their perception, not just because, but so that they're ready for change. One of the most reliable ways to improve your self-image and to better position yourself to be able to navigate this process that's going to lead to academic success is to increase your sense of deserving for that success that you say that you want, that you like, you've been going hard trying to reach it since you were in kindergarten and started, t-ball or midget football, right?
Mm-hmm.
But in order to be able to do that, Ronnie, people have to release patterns of thinking and behavior that aren't in alignment with what they say they want as it relates to that academic and that athletic success. Most of us have perceptions about ourselves that are limiting and create in us a sense of doubt about the possibilities in our life. But I want people to know that I am of the persuasion, and I can prove it to you, that there are no limitations and that all things are possible. We can choose to release the limiting paradigms and achieve the levels of athletic success, academic success, professional success, emotional wellness success, and every other type of success that you desire by making a conscious decision to release limiting paradigms. So for those of you that might be asking what these paradigms are that I'm talking about, paradigms are the multitude of habits and patterns of thought and behavior that keep you stuck in the status quo, or what you've heard me and Ronnie talk about on the show before, the discomfort, the dis-ease, and the discontent of your comfort zone. It's the mindsets that make positive change feel uncomfortable, and the fears that tell you that you're going to fail if you actually try to achieve the levels of success that we know in your heart you really want to achieve. You want to go to the league. You want to be able to go to college on a full scholarship, right? You want to be the superstar. You want to be the person that, can sell your name, image, and likeness and all these things and you want to do all of these things around your athletic involvement, but you're scared. You're scared that you're not going to be able to do it. So what I want to say in closing, my tip is this: in order to overcome these limiting paradigms, we need to grow a larger sense of deserving for what it is we really want. This sense of deserving doesn't come from what we have or have not done in our past, Ronnie. It comes from the infinite potential that is within each of us. And we can choose to identify with our innate potential because it's there. It's in that place in space, Ronnie, that we begin to shift our sense of self from our past to a higher self. And who we truly can become is that athlete that achieves extraordinary success. It's that coach that wins championships. It's that parent that applauds when their kid wins the Heisman Trophy or the state championship or the player of the year or whatever it is. It's a choice, and the choice is yours. So
we need to get an applause machine. That was beautiful, Dr. Chris. Thank you for that. I'm glad you wrote that down and fleshed that out.
Yeah.
I think that was really powerful. And to your point about, people coming to see us and things like that, you know,
Mhm.
we are definitely can be a part of your journey, but we are not your entire journey either.
That's right.
And, you know, even in the position we sit in, and I think oftentimes we get a bad rap of, you know, people think that they come to us and we're supposed to be God to them, or, you know, figure it all out.
Wave that clinical magic wand and make it all better.
Because trust me, if it worked that simple, I'll wave it on myself, and, you know.
Look, say that.
But you know, everything you said, it was beautiful and it was eloquent, because that's something that, you know, kind of the premise of not necessarily just therapy, but the premise of life is, you know, at the end of the day, it is up to you, the individual. I was just telling a client this yesterday. I was like, when we wake up, we have choices. We have a choice to do better, or we have a choice to be the same.
Yeah.
Either one of them are hard. It's hard to be the same. It's hard to do better. But choose your hard. We have that choice. And now I know, like you said, for some people, understanding that you have that choice it might not seem fathomable or even realistic. I was talking to a kid a couple of days ago, teenager, early teens, just hit teenagerhood, not in a great situation, not a great family environment and things like that. And, you know, most kids in that type of situation, they start to realize, like, you know, well, I can't trust the people that are supposed to take care of me, so I'm gonna have to take control of this myself.
Yeah.
One of the things we always preach about is, you know, when you become 18, when you become technically an adult, that shift of that responsibility falls on you. And so what I like to tell kids that are, you know, starting, you know, teenager, 13, 14 years old is, you know, everything you're saying is valid. And I hear everything you're saying. You don't trust the people that you live with. They haven't held up their end of the deal. That's fine. But let me ask you this. From birth to 18, you have no control over that. However, the only control you have in that situation is how you respond. But let me ask you this. One day you will have that responsibility. When you turn 18, will you be ready for that responsibility? Because once you turn 18, all the stuff you're saying now at 11, 12, 13, 14, that responsibility falls on you.
That's right.
Now, granted, your caregivers, your providers might not have given you the tools, because maybe they didn't have the tools. Because maybe they thought just like you did at 11, 12, 13, that my parents don't care for me. They can't provide for me the way they needed to. So I'm gonna have to take control myself. And when they got that responsibility is overwhelming. Yeah. So when you talk about that shift from being, you know, relying on parents, caregivers and stuff like that, to now it's on you, and you already don't have life somewhat figured out. You haven't trusted the process this whole time because the process has been trash. So now
the process has failed you in your mind. So you're like, why would I trust that?
And to your point, why would I start my own process? What am I basing it off of? What am I referencing it from? Right. We say all that to say that might be true, but that does not mean that you can't take that responsibility and accountability and turn nothing into something. That's real. Now it's not. Now let me put this disclaimer out there, because I know how radio and media do. Yeah, they will cut out 3 and 4. Oh, here Ronnie go talking about it's just easy to change your life. I didn't say that. I did not say that. But what I'm saying is, nobody else is going to do it for you. Facts. Now we can be real for a second. Remember, that's the whole point of the show, is to be real. Ain't nobody gonna come and change your life for you except for you. Right. You might have a support system come along the way. You might have like-minded people come along the way and support you and be there for you, as a team. But at the end of the day, it is you, the individual, who has to trust your process, trust your lane, and just go and just stay in your lane. Yeah. And so I appreciate you saying that, Dr. Chris, because I think with everything going on in the world, I mean, I'll be honest with y'all, like this
craziness right about now.
When Sunday was here, I kid you not, gas in Virginia, where I live in Virginia, gas was $3.29 on Sunday. It is $3.80 as of today. Wow.
I was talking to some clients, and where they are, gas is over $5.
I believe it. Oh, I believe it. And so I saw it is, it probably, here they are talking about, it's just easy to do this easy. No, it's not easy.
Actually, it's hard.
We're going through this too.
Say it.
We're going through
It's
this.
true.
We're going through the same thing too. We're all in this together.
That's right.
All right, we're all in this together.
To piggyback on that, Ronnie, because I think that it's important to clarify on even further what you said. You know, we're not suggesting by any stretch that any of this is easy. I tell people all the time, you know, Ronnie's a human being. I'm a human being. We were human beings before we became clinicians. So we have lives and heartache and pain and struggles and frustrations and aggravation and fears and doubts and worries and all of these other things, just like everybody else. The difference between us and other people is that we're fortunate enough to have the formal education and training to be able to learn how to not only regulate and manage our own lives in a much more effective way, but we're also equipped to be able to help you to manage your life in a more effective way. And I tell my clients all the time, I think I've said this before, that literally the very first session, I tell my clients, Ronnie, that I approach this work integratively and collaboratively. And the integrative piece is that I'm going to pull from my formal education, training, and professional experience as a clinician, an educator, and a research scholar. But I'm also going to pull from the PhD that I have from the School of Hard Knocks in Life. I don't pretend to have all of the answers, but I have a bunch of them, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you know, we're taught as clinicians that there are certain times when it is appropriate to disclose. And of course you disclose minimally, right? But I do that because it lets my clients know that I'm not just pulling stuff out of a daggone textbook. I've lived and breathed and been near death and been beat up and kicked around and steamrolled by life and had trauma and heartbreak and the whole look. People say, you ought to write a book. I did. You know, I totally did. But I say all that to say is that when you talk to Ronnie about how important it is for folks to trust the process, I want to add this to that piece because it's paramount. Trusting the process is. But here's the add-on to that. And this might be like, wait, explain that, Dr. Pitts. Every situation and circumstance in life that we encounter is neutral. It's neutral. Dr. Pitts, what are you talking about? I'm very glad. I'm so glad you asked. It's neutral because it's our perception of the situation, circumstance, or incident that determines its meaning. And the meaning that you attribute to whatever it is that's going on is what determines your experience. Hence why somebody sees the glass half full and somebody sees the glass half empty. Hence why somebody sees, you know, you've heard the expression, one man's trash is another man's treasure. Or somebody sees the devastation that they've experienced during the pandemic is just earth-shattering, and somebody else sees it as opportunity. It's all in how you perceive whatever it is that's going on. The situation itself is neutral. So I ask you, what meaning are you giving to your situations and circumstances in your life? You have more power over life than you realize you do. There are a lot of things that happen in our lives that we have absolutely, positively no control over. But we have all the control in the world, as you said, concerning how we respond to it.
Yep. And oftentimes that's the only thing you have control over.
Yeah, is your response.
And I think even to your point about, you know, being in this field and stuff like that, even from my perspective, you know, the more you start to appreciate life, you know, just being, and I think oftentimes a lot of us, I'm guilty of this too. A lot of us, we have anxious subconscious mind sometimes, like, you know, where you're so used to just thinking about like tomorrow, next week, next month, you never stop it and just enjoy today. Right. And I always tell people, the more you think about what could be or what if and stuff like that, as opposed to actually appreciating and being in the here and now, Nothing will ever be satisfying. Nothing will ever be enough because you never stop to assess and process what you have right here and there to even know, like, what, to your point, what the value is, what the meaning of is, because it's never been satisfying from jump. So being able to recognize those things and then doing something about it. You know, when they say you know better, you do better. But we can know better. I think a lot of us know better about a lot of things, but it's the doing part. And it's the having that,
it's the doing part that's the challenge.
and it's having that trust and confidence within yourself to know that, you know, whether this works or not, like, I'm doing something for me that's going to benefit me in the long run. So, you know, and you have to be able to believe that. I always tell people, you got to have the confidence of Kanye. Like, you got to. He always said, like, if I don't believe in myself, who will?
Yeah. I tell people that they can even borrow some of my belief if they want to, because I mean, as you can imagine, in this line of work, you know, my bio is pretty revealing, right? You know, people read my bio and they're like, Dr. Pitts, how? And I say, I chose to.
Yeah.
I chose, and I say this, I think I've said it before, and I giggle, I tell people about it all the time. It was years ago when Andre's father said to me, you know, you're just like a roach, you just will not die. And I'm, you know, obviously I know my child's father well enough to know that he meant it as a compliment. At the time, I was like, seriously? That's real? But in essence, what he was saying was that he was acknowledging my resilience. He was acknowledging my resilience, and resilience is a choice.
Yeah. It
is a choice. I don't know, you know, it's like, I was cracking up because my mom called me after last week's show, Ronnie. She's like, your inner Paulette came out. That's what it did. You know, and it blesses my heart when that happens, but that's really, it is what it is. Like, I'm from a family of fighters. I'm from individuals that literally, you know, when I think about the trauma that we've experienced as a family system and how catastrophic it could have been, Ronnie, had we not trust the process of healing, had we not trust the process of deliverance, had we not trust the process of restorative power, had we not trust the process of what it means to be a unified family, even when there's differences, you know what I mean? So all of that, you know, I said to a client yesterday, I said, I wish I could have known you at a different time in my life because I would have adopted you. And I would have, like, I mean, I just know me, you know, and I'm like, I just love to be instrumental in helping people to stop hurting. I want to be a beacon of light that is guiding people through their process, because what do you and I know to be true? If people can push past the perimeter of their comfort zone, that perimeter, we've said it time and time again, it's fear and anxiety. If we can teach people how to push past that, what lies on the other side of it is the infinite possibilities of more and different and better. You're pushing past it every day. I'm pushing past it every day. There's no respecter of persons in this amazing universe that we live in. What Ronnie is doing, any of you can do. What I'm doing, any of you can do. You just have to decide that you want it bad enough.
Yeah.
And do it. What's happened to you doesn't define you. It's just what's happened to you. It's not who you are.
It's a moment.
It's your choice.
It's a moment. Yeah. Man, well, that was beautiful, Dr. Pitts. Thank you for that mental health tip of the week. I just piggyback off of that one. See, listeners, for those who've been faithful to us, what I always say, will she go first? Ain't no point in me going. Why? Why go? What's the point? Like,
don't do that, Ronnie.
I don't have nothing that was, we're going to use that. That's good.
It's good to go. We're good to go.
We're good to go with that one, man.
Okay.
I know you have some HBCU news to share as well.
I do. And before I do that, I'll, you know, as always, I want to make sure that our viewing and listening audience, really, if you have not downloaded the Heritage Sports Radio Network app by now, what's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? You need to download the app. HSRN is doing the darn thing, man. With the lineup, Ronnie, the lineup, the shows that we have, and we are, as a network, we are growing by leaps and bounds as a network. And for those of you that haven't heard me say before, HSRN is empowering the HBCU families, head, heart, and hands to deliver the impact we all know it can. So please, please, please download the app, check us out, check out all of our colleagues. If you haven't heard us say it before, you know, we rebroadcast. Actually, we're on right now on 11 a.m. every Saturday on HSRN. We're live on Zoom and Facebook. But you can catch us if you want to catch, you know, last week's show or whatever. Just tune in. Tune into HSRN. We're on at 11 a.m., at 10 p.m., and then again at 6 p.m. on Sundays. But just a phenomenal lineup of shows that's really designed to just positively impact the lives of our HBCU family and just Black and brown communities all over the nation and around the world. So super excited about that. I do.
Real quick,
yeah.
you know what's crazy about the time our show comes on?
What?
Think about, this is a humble brag, ladies and gentlemen. This is appreciation. This is giving us our flowers while we're still here to smell them.
Mm-hmm.
Normally the 10 o'clock slot is Quiet Storm, After Hours.
Wow.
You know,
yeah.
We are out here inspiring people doing the Quiet Storm, ladies and gentlemen. That's huge. Like when you really think about it, like we competing against Quiet Storm, After Hours, all the R&B songs that come on at late at night. That's what we going against, y'all. And we doing the damn thing against that. All right.
I love it.
Do y'all know how hard it is to compete against Keith Sweat at 10 o'clock at night? That is not easy.
Right.
That is not easy. But I just had to throw that in.
Because we're nurturing their mental health because the you know, for folks that might not be into Keith Sweat, they tossing and turning because they're stressed out about everything that's going on in their life. And here we come to soothe their mind.
We're like white noise music to them.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I just had to throw that in there. Go ahead.
You're fine. Look, let me put my specs on so I can see. So what I wanted to point out as far as the HBCU news goes is Magic Johnson is speaking at the North Carolina A&T. They're having an entrepreneurship event that is exploring lessons that can be learned from his business endeavors. What it all boils down to is A&T is doing a Building Black Businesses series. That's the Chancellor Speaker Series. So on Tuesday, March 29th at 6 p.m., Magic Johnson will deliver a tailored keynote address to an audience of students and community members in Harrison Auditorium located on the university's campus. And for those of you that are in that neck of the woods or that want to make your way to that neck of the woods to see that, Ronnie, the tickets are free. It's free tickets will be available beginning March 15th. So what's that next? It's 10 days from now. So free tickets will be available beginning March 15th at the university ticket office located in Brown Hall. So anybody that's going to be in the A&T area, go and check out Magic. Tell him I say hey. And if we want to,
that's only 3 hours for me. I might have to go pull up on Magic, but like Magic, you trying to hop on House Talk real quick?
Right.
We can do the interview right now.
Look, how about that? We do pre-recording just because.
Hey, look, I'll call HSRN with the heart, with the quickness. Like, hey, look, bump everything that's on the radio right now. We got Magic. That's
there it is.
Promise. We got Magic. Everything else must stop.
Yeah,
that's what's up. In other HBCU news, shout out to Fayetteville State Broncos, the men's basketball team, for winning the 2021-22 CIAA men's basketball tournament championship.
Nice.
Also, shout out to Lincoln University's women's basketball team for winning the CIAA women's basketball tournament this offseason or this season. So both of them have an automatic bid to the Division II NCAA basketball tournament for their respective brackets. And so I know there's a couple other schools in the CIAA that have a chance to get in, maybe at an at-large bid and whatnot. So good luck to them. So yeah, and then also I haven't watched it yet, Dr. Pitts, but if you get a chance, you know, Deion Sanders you know, he recorded a documentary for this past season at Jackson State that's on YouTube.
So my husband saw it. I have not seen it yet. Eric saw it and he said it's really, really good. So it's just a matter of making time to be able to, you know what? I'll do it today.
Yeah, I said I was gonna try and watch it today too, because
I'll try and watch it today.
I definitely want to see how that was and whatnot, because I mean they had a phenomenal, you know, first full season down there in Jackson and whatnot. So definitely interested to see how that goes. And you know, once again, always shout out to Coach Prime for what he's doing for Jackson State and the other HBCU. Speaking of HBCUs, this was kind of something that kind of slid under the radar, but so Grambling State, you know, they hired Hugh Jackson, former Cleveland Browns NFL head coach and whatnot. And actually one of my really good friends, shout out to Ryan Davis, we used to work together, worked out together and everything. He's actually one of the assistant coaches on Grambling State staff. So shout out to Coach Hugh Jackson for hiring him. He came from University of Washington, really great dude. So shout out to him for being on the coaching staff there. But it was one of the other coaches that definitely raised a lot of eyebrows. So they kind of slid this in there, and then it just they corrected it and did the right thing, I believe. So Hugh Jackson had tried to hire former Baylor University coach Art Briles. For those who are not familiar with who Art Briles is, Art Briles was the coach for Baylor University just within the last, I think, 7 to 8 years. And unfortunately, he was the head coach when they had all of the sexual assault allegations coming out about the football team. And the university had covered it up and things like that and tried to sweep it under the rug. He ultimately ended up having to leave Baylor and whatnot. Once again, you know, whatever conversation, you know, Grambling and them had, they hired him. And then the word got out. And I think less than like 72 hours, you know, they, you know, had told him like, yeah, nah.
I was like, never mind.
Yeah. Which I mean, you know.
Wow. Didn't want the heat.
Well, I mean, yeah, of course, obviously, yeah. But even then, like, you know, I don't know who he is at all as a person in the slightest bit of imagination. But once again, you know, we have this high profile coach come from the NFL, come down to Grambling State. Why the hell would you hire see, this is the thing I've always talked about. We have to create a system where we highlight and find qualified, well put together African-American coaches. Like, no, not like, you know, I would imagine if he didn't have this baggage over his head, he would have been a great addition to the team. He's a great offensive mind from what I've seen from the Baylor teams that he coached. Football acumen is not the question, but morale and his, you know, what his morals are, that was definitely the question
when he was at Baylor.
Why would you invite that, you know, to a HBCU when, once again, like, I feel like this is a great opportunity to find, groom, and mold young African-American coaches and help create a system, as opposed to just recycling. And then you make this grand leap of trying to just bring in somebody who, I mean, the baggage that he has, you don't want them type of problems on your campus.
Right.
Like,
right.
So, yeah, I'm glad they, you know, corrected that and, you know, didn't allow him to come on the staff. But I just found that odd when I saw that they had hired him. I was like, so you mean to tell me there wasn't a qualified African-American offensive coordinator nowhere in the country? No, not even at the high school level? Nowhere? I mean, hell, Deion, I mean, now granted, it's Deion, but hell, he came from high school. You know, I mean, one of the NFL teams was just ready to hire a former NFL player who's coaching high school. They ain't coached college or anything, but they're ready to hire him as the head coach. So you mean to tell me you couldn't do your due diligence a little bit longer and find an African-American coach anywhere? Just saying. Just saying. We got to, I get what the HBCUs are doing. You got to get these big names in because, you know, playing catch up. I get all that, but at what cost?
Yeah, real. That's real.
So I'm just saying, you know, that was just something that I saw. I was like, I don't know. Just a little bit. That's too big of a leap for my, you know, for my cup of tea. But, you know, hey, you know, so I hope, you know, shout out to Grambling this season. I'm definitely rooting for my boy and whatnot, you know, so because I know how excited he is to be at the HBCU, because we've had these conversations years ago about him trying to get on the HBCU when he was just starting off as, you know, an analyst and an assistant and stuff like that. So shout out to him. So yeah, I don't think there was anything else going on in the HBCU world outside of that.
No, we just need to send our condolences out.
Yeah, go ahead and go ahead and touch on that. I can't even remember the girl's
So
name, but
for
definitely.
folks that don't know, Stanford University star soccer player Kate Meyer died by suicide. Her mother told NBC's Today Show during an emotional interview yesterday. Um, there haven't been a lot of facts or anything like that released about it, other than it was a suicide. So our thoughts and prayers definitely go out to the Meyer family. She was phenomenal.
Yeah,
She
definitely.
was a
Then
beast.
she had a 30. I looked it up. As a goalie, she had a 34-12-2
Yeah,
record. And then,
yeah.
but she's most notably known for in 2019 in the national
Taking them to
championship
the
in
championship. Yep.
2019, blocking the two penalty kicks from North Carolina to help them
Yeah.
win the championship. So
Yeah.
yeah, no, highly decorated as a soccer player.
Yeah. All
And
that
I mean,
sort
just
of
to go to
rebating money.
Stanford,
Yeah.
just
Right.
your academic, mind,
Right.
just to get into Stanford,
Right.
So definitely, so sad to hear. And once
Yeah.
again, this is why we have this show.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
the whole
Just
point of this show.
heartbroken, and can't even imagine
Yeah,
the pain that her family is in, and truly, I mean, the campus community too, her teammates, her
teammates.
classmates, I mean, just everybody that knew her. Nobody had an unkind word to say about her. So just, they're definitely keep them in our thoughts and prayers as well.
Yeah, no, definitely. Our,
Yeah.
our thoughts and prayers go out to them, and all the student athletes on campus, students, faculty, all that who knew her, who was in her life, and things like that. It's never easy, especially at that age. And and I hope that I would imagine Stanford will do their due diligence and make sure that they have wraparound services for anybody who's
Right.
impacted by her
Right.
sudden, her sudden death and everything. It's
Yeah.
never easy when you lose somebody close to you, especially as a
No.
teammate. When you lose a
No.
teammate, especially as a student athlete, you go to war with that person, not in a obviously a literal sense, but you
Right.
go to war on the field.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you build a relationship on and off the field. So definitely prayers and condolences to the family and friends of her.
Yeah. Yeah.
So ready to get into this topic, Dr. Pitts?
Let's get into it. Let's get into it.
Man. So I mean, look, y'all, when we talk about athletic success and what that really looks like and what it means to achieve that, we all, I mean, if you're a student athlete, professional athlete, you have heard this saying a trillion times. A trillion times. It is the work that nobody sees that matters most.
That's right.
That is
never a traffic jam on the extra mile.
It is beaten into our heads at the earliest age possible for sports. It is the work that nobody sees that matters most. But when we talk about that work that goes unseen, what does that really look like and what does that really mean? Because everybody wants to be, I find it hard to believe that with anything you do, whether it's sports, life, school, family, marriage, parenthood, anything, everybody goes into it with the intention of, I want to be successful at this. Even in sports, even at little league age, kids get into sports because they want to be successful at it. They see these people on TV on Saturdays, Sundays, during the week, doing something that they're doing right now at the very same age. And they're like, oh, that's what I want to do. I get to do that on TV and I'm doing this right now. Oh, well, sign me up. That's what I want to do.
Right.
Talk about a hell of a, you ain't even, all you gotta do is put on a game. You don't have to say anything. It sells itself.
It really does.
But what does that look like? What is working hard in silence really mean? And I think often, and I will say this, for the generation now that, the young kids we have now who are listening to things like that, our college athletes, high school, little league and all that, who are listening to the show today, this conversation is for y'all.
Yeah.
Because I've said it before, there has never been a better time to be a student athlete than today. Because the resources, the exposure, the opportunities are almost limitless.
Yeah.
Like if you do not get seen in today's time as a student athlete, it is simply because you have not exhausted all the options possible.
Mhm.
Now, granted, some might not know what all those options are. We're going to talk about that today. And
Mhm.
so not only individual athletic success, but team athletic success. What does it mean
Mhm.
for a team to be athletically successful? Obviously, the number one goal of every team, win a championship, win it all.
Right. Right.
I bet. Okay, cool. That
Yeah.
sounds fun. But what does that look like? What is
Right. How do you get there?
especially if you're on a team who, hell, just winning
Right.
is a feat within itself. So
Right.
if you're on a team where winning is a feat within itself, what does winning it all even look like?
Mhm.
And so let's kind of dive into that, Dr. Pitts. When we think
Mhm.
about this, let's start at the end. Let's start with individual athletic success first.
Okay.
When I think of individual athletic success and measuring athletic success, one of the first people I think of and that I used to always measure myself to is Kobe Bryant.
Mhm.
The whole idea of the Mamba mentality and what
Mhm.
that means. And you hear it in every profession. Work
Mhm.
hard, just keep working hard. Hard work pays off. Hard work pays
Mhm.
off. But what does hard work really mean? As an athlete, for me, when I really got into seriously playing football, I started, really training my body to be at the highest level in 8th grade.
Mhm.
Like when I was in 8th grade, when I was 13 years old, I made the decision that I was going to commit at that point, my entire life, energy, and all that and efforts into being an NFL football player and
Mhm.
whatever that looked like. And for me at that age, what it looked like is when I would get home from school, my parents had a garage in the backyard. It was
Mhm.
our little mini weight room. When I get home from
Mhm.
school, I was in there 2-3 hours a day,
Yeah.
just lifting weights on the treadmill, all of that,
Mhm.
carrying wood in the backyard, flipping a
Mhm.
tire every single day from the age of 13. And I worked and I worked and I worked at it. One of my first goals was to
Mhm.
be a ninth grade on varsity at my high school.
You was in your Colin Kaepernick mindset.
Oh yeah. Oh, I was sold. When
Mhm.
I saw the Rams and Titans play in the Super Bowl back in '99, I was
Mhm.
sold. I didn't know how I was gonna get
Wow.
there, but I was sold. I
Wow.
was like, that's
Okay.
what I want to do. And I was willing to do anything to get there. Dr.
Wow.
Pitts, when I say I would train for hours a day,
Wow.
hours, weekends, I was in there morning all day, just lifting stuff
Mhm.
that had, just to lift, just to say I lift. I'll never forget, my dad would bring food to the garage. I'd eat, go right back to lifting, just
Wow.
all day. That's
Mhm.
all I did
Going
because
hard obsessively. It sounds like.
oh, I
Mhm.
was obsessed, beyond
Mhm.
obsessed. But what I learned at an early age was, and this was one of the things that my dad had instilled in me at an early age, is you have to be willing to work harder than everybody else
Oh yeah.
just to be half as good.
Mhm.
You have to be willing to work harder than everybody else.
Wow.
But doing the hard work, what does that look like? One of the things I like to talk about with people is the difference between motivation and discipline.
Mhm.
And all my student athletes out there, current, former, whatever the case may be, every student athlete has said at one point or another that this is my motivation. This is my
Mhm.
why. This is what I'm doing it for. This is who I'm dedicating it to. All of that, which sounds amazing and phenomenal and fantabulous. Great. But motivation is like a microwave meal. You find something that inspires you, sparks you. I need that right now. For example, a student athlete. I hear student athletes say this all the time when the season over with. Like in high school football, for example, you might play your last game on a Friday.
Mhm.
50% of them kids gonna sit there and say, I'll be in the weight room on Monday.
Wow.
Sounds good. You just got your butt whooped on the field. You pissed
Mhm.
off. You mad. I'm in the weight room on Monday. I ain't letting this fly no more. We gonna get them next season. And then Monday get here. You done had a long day in school. You don't fail the test. I'll
Mhm.
start next week. My body is still a little sore and everything.
Wow.
Motivation is like a microwave meal. It's quick, get the
Okay.
job done, fill you right up. Boom, you walk right out the
Mhm.
door. But what happens when you run out? What happens when you get hungry again? What happens when that
Mhm.
motivation runs out? What's
Mhm.
going to motivate you again? So I always tell people motivation is like a microwave meal. Discipline is that Thanksgiving meal. That meal where you sit down and
Mm.
plot it out. You plan ahead of time. You got your
Mhm.
grocery list, meaning you got your goals listed out. You got your long-term, your intermediate goals, and your short-term goals. You go to the store and get all the ingredients. You make an inventory of all the things you need to do to be successful. Training, eating, sleeping, diet, education, all that. You got to list it out. Then you go get the ingredients. Start working on it. Start sitting in the front of class. Start asking questions. Start studying at home. Start doing push-ups and sit-ups at nighttime. Building. Pop that meal in the oven. Let it cook slow. Don't rush it. You got all day. Dinner don't start till 3. Don't rush it. You only a teenager. Do the little things right now. You don't need to lift 500 pounds right now at 14. Work on 100
Can I ask
pounds.
you a question, Ronnie?
What's up?
I mean, you've put a lot of stuff on that list. Where does camps come in?
I'm glad you said that. I'm glad you said that. Let's talk about camps for a second. We're gonna get back to motivation and discipline, but let's talk about camps real quick. I had to learn this the hard way. For the families out there listening, let me break this down to you how camps work. The only and I don't want to burst nobody's bubbles or make anybody have a bad day or whatever, but I will say this: when you go to a camp that a college is hosting, whether it's to football, basketball, whatever the case may be, those schools, 98% of the kids who attend those camps is strictly almost like a fundraiser. Something that colleges do, schools do, just to have kids come out there. I used to go to football camps all the time. One of my favorite football camps to go to was University of Maryland. University of Maryland was my dream school. And it was my favorite camp because that was the only football camp that you could have helmet and shoulder pads on and actually hit.
Okay.
Most football camps, you just in skin, you just got your workout clothes on and that's it. But in Maryland, you got to have on pads because why are we going to do one-on-ones without pads on? And so my parents paid, I think it was like $900 for 4 days. It was an expensive camp. It was not, it was not cheap. So me knowing that, getting in the high school, knowing that this is an investment, I understood that my parents were making an investment in me. So I already know I got to go out there and show out. I got to go out there. And so this is what I've learned. And I've had to actually do reflection on this and come to terms with it. I will go out there, Dr. Pitts, and I will be the top performer. Mind you, I'm only 6'1", at this time, 6'1", about 280, 290, which is not a bad size for a lineman. But here's what I figured out. Those schools, everybody else that paid, that's cool. But they got a group about maybe 15, 20 kids that show up that you don't know where they came from. They there for that day, and then they gone. Those are the kids the school really care about. Them the ones that the school said, we want you to come to this camp. We're going to pay for you to come to this camp. We want to see if your high school film matches what you do here. Because if what you do here matches your high school film, oh, well, look, you got this scholarship already in the bag. Now, when I was going to these camps, I didn't understand that. I'm thinking like, okay, well, they play football. They invited them here. Well, let me bust them up out here. Mind you, they got these dudes coming in 6'5", 6'6", 280, 290, 300. Just these are high school kids looking like full-grown adults. I'm giving them business, Dr. I'm talking about crazy, giving them the business. They sitting there, who is this little short fat kid right here giving us the business? Kid you not. Did so good at the camps that at the time, the head coach, Coach Ralph Friedgen, saw me, was interested in everything. And, I've gone into this, they thought I was going to get taller. I didn't get taller. So they didn't give me a scholarship. But what I learned is that no matter how good I was, I didn't fit their prototype. I didn't fit the typical lineman that they wanted. So me going out there, my parents spending their hard-earned money for 3 years in a row, me going out there being one of the best performers at the entire camp every single year, having the college coaches come down and watch me personally do one-on-ones, all that, love me, tell me everything I want to hear. Oh man, we love you. We want to get you up here, all that. Even got an official visit out of them. Like all of that. Just to be told, yeah, dog, you 6'1", like, we don't know what to tell you. Like, we like you, but we don't like you that much.
Wow.
And that was a tough pill to swallow. So I say all that to say, camps are cool. Camps are a great way to get your name out there. But if you think your camp performance will overshadow what you put on the field, what you do on a football field, you're sadly mistaken. Now, granted, my football film in high school wasn't terrible. It was really decent. However, I was played out of position. With the things I did at camp, I didn't get a chance to do that at my school. I played different positions. So my film never matched what I would do at the camps. And so that was a tough pill to swallow, that I put all this effort into something, and in all reality, I was just a donation to them. My parents go ahead.
Ronnie, what about the developmental camps though? What about some of the elite developmental camps that are based upon how they're advertised? It's for it's skill building camps around whatever the respective sport is.
Now those type of camps, like so if it's camps, like I know NFL players will host camps and stuff like that, or even schools, some schools will host skills camps and stuff like that. I think those are very beneficial.
Okay.
Those type of camps, I think those are very beneficial because one, you would hope that the person who's running the camp knows what the hell they're talking about. That's first and foremost. So if it's an NFL player, I would like to think they know what they're talking about. Or they'll have people there who know what they're talking about. That's number one. Number two, it gives you a great opportunity to see where your skill set is against other people from around the area and, maybe out of state and stuff like that, depending on where you go. Camps like that, awesome. But parents, just beware. These these colleges that have these camps where you can come by, because a lot of the bigger schools, like Maryland, when they would have their camp, they would have 20 other smaller colleges there. So the kids who didn't get looked at by Maryland and stuff like that, you had the D1 AAs, the D2s, and the D3 coaches there who will pull you to the side and say, hey, we like what you're doing and whatnot. Here's my card. We'll reach out to you. That's cool and whatnot, but I'm trying to go to Maryland.
Right.
So just parents, beware of that. Like, the eye in the sky does not lie. The eye in the sky does not lie. Your film that you put in actual game time performances matters the absolute most when it comes to recruiting. Now, the skills camps and stuff like that, phenomenal, very beneficial. Even going to training facilities and stuff like that, if it makes sense. Because parents, there's a lot of trainers out here who say they're doing football specific stuff that is just absolutely pointless. So be mindful of that. Like, you get ready to say something?
Well, I want you to expound on it further, but I want to give you a more specific scenario that I'm hoping that you can sort of flesh out for the audience. And it ties to motivation and the camps and an injury scenario. So say, for example, we have a high school athlete who is playing two sports, but there's one sport in particular that they excel at. And that's the sport that they're really hoping that they're going to be able to go to college on an athletic scholarship for. They sustain an injury, an ACL injury, hypothetically, right? Now, because of the ACL injury, and I know we've talked about this before, you missed your freshman year because of a broken foot. Because of the ACL injury, say the student was unable to play their junior year for fall sport. So they don't have the film that they need. They played freshman year, played sophomore year, couldn't play junior year, will be able to play senior year. What would be your recommendation for that student as it relates to their motivation, trying to get back up to par in their play, and tie that, if you would, tie that injury to motivation to get back to a solid level of playing, sort of intertwine that, and is there any benefit to them going to a camp, this summer, for example, to try and get some things back so that they can go strong? And what weight does film from senior year play? Can you, and I know I just asked you like 5 questions at the same time, but
it's all good. So, let's start with the injury question first. So, junior year, you tear your ACL. Now, a lot of factors can go into that. First and foremost, if it's your junior year, from what I see now, the way recruiting goes now, and I'm just being flat out honest to parents out here. If by junior year, your child is not receiving any recognition from like big schools at all, chances are, unless they hit a growth spurt or it just clicks and they just fly off the screen in their senior year, the big school's probably not going to come call them. Because the way recruiting works now, these schools are working on recruiting classes for freshman year.
Wow.
Like, they already have freshman rankings up for freshmen who are coming into high school now because of how the AAU circuit is, because they can watch these kids as early as middle school and get an idea of who might be something by the time they get to high school and so on and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
So if your child isn't really getting a lot of college buzz going into their junior season and,
Mm-hmm.
they have this unfortunate injury,
Mm-hmm.
then obviously it's going to be a difficult conversation because, the last thing a kid wants to hear is, well, you probably not going to be able to do this or something like that. Now, with that being said, also, I think the way the medical advances and stuff like that are, first and foremost for that student athlete, their mindset should just be on getting healthy.
Mm-hmm.
At that point, recruiting, scholarships and all that needs to be on hold. And as tough as that might be, because obviously your anxiety is probably going to be on 1,000. Oh no, what's going to happen? Am I going to lose my scholarship? The school's going to stay away. The honest answer to that is, it just depends on the school.
Yeah.
Some schools, like if you get an injury like an ACL, rotator cuff or something like that, a serious injury that needs surgery and at least a good 6 to 8 months of rehab, some schools probably won't touch you.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, as much as this sport is a fun thing, it's also a business.
Right.
So, and this is why we always talk about parents having these conversations with kids as early as possible, because if you find yourself in a situation like this, it can make it extremely difficult to have a rational conversation with a kid whose emotions are so invested into this sport that it's hard for them to pull back from that, because now it seems like their whole world has just come falling down on them. So obviously their motivation might be extremely low. My answer to that student athlete and to that parent is focus on getting healthy.
Okay.
Because if you don't get healthy, the hell what you do your senior year and stuff like that. If there's a chance that you could, there's always a chance that you can get re-injured. But if you rushed the healing process because you wanted to get back on the field just to prove something, and you end up hurting yourself even more, well, at that point you can kiss anything that you thought you would get goodbye. Focus on getting healthy. Once you are healthy, to your point about going to camps and stuff like that, if you are, let's say you're a highly recruited kid and this happened to you, depending on how good you are, schools, schools understand things happen. So it really just depends on your relationship with that school at that time. Some schools will pull back and be like, you know what, you got injured in high school, you might get injured in college, so you might not be worth the investment, and that's fine. Doesn't mean you can't play. It doesn't mean you're not good. It's just that school, that situation won't work on their end. Doesn't mean there's something wrong with you. And I can understand that can be very heartbreaking and very defeating, to hear that. But once again, like, you have to be able to see through that. And that's when we talk about the motivation and discipline. So when I say get healthy, be disciplined in getting healthy. Your motivation is right there to get healthy. But that motivation has to turn into discipline, because that healing process is not going to be easy. There will be days, there will be setbacks, there will be challenges, there will be things that you have to, building that confidence within yourself, especially if you have something like an ACL injury where you have to move laterally and stuff. Having that trust back getting that trust back within yourself to know that you can do your abilities at the best ability possible. So there's a lot of things that go into that. So focus on getting healthy first. Once you are healthy, if going to a camp to showcase your talents post-injury work in your favor, I don't see nothing wrong with that. Don't see nothing wrong with that at all. But your main goal should be to get healthy, because if you can't show that you are 100% healthy or as close to 100% as possible, you don't have to worry about whether schools are going to fall back. There won't be no schools contacting you, period.
Yeah, that's true.
So once again, I don't want to sound harsh to parents out there, but these things
The reality of it, though, they need to know.
One of my best friends, my brother, blood couldn't make us any closer. His sophomore, he was a 2-sport athlete. As a sophomore, he already had offers from UVA, NC State, Virginia Tech, Pittsburgh. He had, I think, 10 Division I offers for football and a couple for basketball. He was playing basketball season, broke his foot, Liz Frank fracture in his foot. And he was out for the rest of basketball season and first half of the football season. Tried to come back, thought he was healthy. Never forget it. It was an off week in practice. It was an off week for our season. So we were just having practice. Had to do a spin move, heard the pop, rebroken. Wow. All the schools that had hung around after the first fracture, when they heard about the second one, gone. Nothing else. All those D1 offers, gone. And it bothered him. It really bothered him, because I mean, his athletic ability, I mean, it screamed Division I. I mean, my friend 6'3", at that time, 6'3", 250, 255. And I mean, just a freak athlete. Like could dunk vertically, could play defensive end. I mean, like just a freak athlete. But because he broke his foot twice during high school and within a span of 18 months, he went from having 10 Division I offers to going to an NAIA school.
Wow.
And so that happens. And so you ask yourself, how do you rebound from that? How do you get past that? Once again, it's not an easy thing. But when we're having these discussions now, letting these kids know, like, there will become a day you won't be able to play this sport anymore.
Right.
Unfortunately, that could happen in high school. So you have to be prepared.
Right.
Oftentimes, a lot of kids are not prepared. And oftentimes, a lot of parents don't want to be the person that come in and say, you know, hey, look, you know, we know you love this sport and everything, but we also think you need to look at something else outside of that.
Right.
Not an easy conversation to have. However, you have to be real with your children. You're not being a dream crusher. You're not being a pessimist or anything like that. But you are simply teaching your child how to be prepared for anything that comes up. Because what do we know as adults in the real world? Something can go left at any moment, any day.
Drop of a dime.
So why do we think in sports that wouldn't happen?
Right.
Anything could go wrong. Perfect example. When the Patriots came off of they had lost the Super Bowl to the Giants in that undefeated season. What happened the very next season, game 1, quarter number 2? Tom Brady has a defensive lineman roll into his knee, torn ACL, season over with. Things happen.
They really do.
Nothing you can do about it.
Career-ending injuries happen all the time.
Joe Theismann, almost Alex Smith. These things happen. So you have to be prepared. And that's also part of an athlete's success, is knowing what happens when adversity hits. One of my coach's favorite terms is survive the poop storm. I can't say the other word, but you know what I'm saying. Survive it, because it's coming. It will happen. Even for me in my own personal career, when I had tore my meniscus for the first time, that was the first time I had ever had any type of, I mean, I had fractured my foot and stuff, but you know, I bounced back from that. But this was the first time I ever required surgery for something that I messed up. And then I messed it up again. And then I messed it up for a third time. And so, you know, it was just having the motivation to get up every day and knowing that, like, this is not easy. This is hard, but I want to do this and I have to do this. That meant I would leave class and I would go to the facility 2 hours before practice and get treatment just so I could go out to practice, doing the little things that nobody wants to do, taking care of your body. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, and I was trying to inconspicuously look down. I cannot think of the name of the movie to save my life, but, you know, I make a lot of reference to Colin Kaepernick's documentary because I just think that it was just extraordinarily done. But there's also a movie on Netflix about a player who played college. I want to say he played for the Razorbacks, but it's based on a true story, Ronnie. What is the name of the darn movie? But it journals his life through being a little kid and wanting to play sports and playing in high school, and always, like, his dream was he was gonna, I do believe it was the Razorbacks. Wanted to play. And you talk about going the extra mile, and it was hilarious because there's a part in the movie where they were saying to him that initially he needed to gain weight, right? And he ate and ate so much that he gained too much weight. So then they were like, "We need to lose weight." So then they were running. And he was fortunate in that he did have a growth spurt. So he got the height that he needed. He ended up, I want to say he ended up being drafted by the Indianapolis Colts. I believe that's who it was. And he ended up being killed in a car accident before he ever played a down of football. But it's a true story. It's a true story. But the reason why I bring that up is because when I look comparatively between Colin Kaepernick and the young man that I was mentioning in this other Netflix movie, they really do embody what it means to trust the process. And it was interesting because there was a window of time, as depicted in both the movie and the documentary, where, you know, coaches were not believing in the athlete's ability, where family members and friends were sort of nodding their head, but then behind the athlete's back, they're like, oh, like he's pipe dreaming. But the fire that was in the belly of the athlete said, you know what? They might not have articulated it, I'm going to trust the process, but they trusted the process because they realized that they were going to do everything that they could possibly do. Yeah, they couldn't make themselves grow or whatever the case may be, but they were going to go to great lengths to fulfill this dream. And that's my encouragement to every athlete that's out there, to every parent that's listening, is that when we talk about trust in the process, you know, in my research, Ronnie, because I was like, where did this come from? Found out that it comes from 76ers, that it was that trust the process was a phrase that was coined when the 76ers were not doing well under Coach Hinkie's leadership, Sam Hinkie. And it was when they were just not doing well at all. And he kept saying, trust the process. And I've said before that I say to my clients all the time, it is helpful when you trust me because it makes it easier for me to be able to help you to achieve your treatment goals. But more importantly, I want you to trust the process. And that's what I'm saying to everybody, whether it's parent or athlete or whomever. You have to trust the process. You have to trust the process athletically, and you have to trust the process where your mental health is concerned. You have to trust the process where your healing is concerned from an injury or whatever the case may be. We have to trust the process because if we don't trust the process, it makes it that much harder to achieve the level of success that you want. And here's what, and Ronnie, I want you to speak to this clinically and personally / professionally where your own athletic career is concerned. I believe that when one trusts the process, that in actuality, the lessons learned within the process is what further equips the athlete to achieve the level of success that they really want to achieve. What do you say?
So when we talk about trusting the process, and the 76ers are a funny example because part of trusting the process it's funny because the coaches and players standpoint is like, yeah, we trust the process. But for management, their process was, well, we need y'all to lose so we can get all these draft picks and then we can be good. But the mantra of trust the process resonated with the fans and everything because it was like, here we are, this team right here, they are still trying. They want to believe the process. So when we talk about trusting the process, let's also talk about it from a team perspective, because at the end of the day, a lot of us play a team sport. And, you know, I'll share, you know, when after my sophomore season, when our coach was fired and everything, you know, we had got a brand new coach and, you know, we heard about him, heard about his reputation and stuff like that. But here we are, a group of 60, 70 men, and we were all our own individuals. It was 60, 70 individuals. And our coach said from jump, not necessarily trust the process, but we are here to bring in a regime and a process that if you do not buy in, if we can't change the people, we'll change the people. Because if you do not buy into this process, if you do not buy into our mindset, it will never work.
Say that again, Ronnie. If we can't change the people, we'll change the people. In other words, y'all gonna change or you gonna be replaced.
Yep.
And wow.
He said, if I can't change you to buy into the program that we're trying to instill, I have no use for you because you do not want to have a team mindset. Yes, as a team sport, it is a bunch of individuals doing a specific job for the mindset of the team. But that doesn't just mean during the game time. That means doing practice. That means doing film study. That means doing workouts. That means doing class time, study hall, tutoring, all those things, campus activity, all those things go hand in hand when it means to trust the process. From a team perspective, if you can't have everybody buy in, I can't tell you how many people that were teammates of mine my freshman and sophomore year. And then when we got a brand new coach who actually brought in a structure, a routine, accountability, discipline, things that you need to have as a team to function and just be able to be a team. How many people dropped out without the coach even having to kick them off the team because they would not buy into the process? they were so used to chaos and dysfunction that when
Mhm.
structure and discipline came in, they bucked against it because they didn't want to buy into it.
Wow.
So
Wow.
as an individual, buying into the process and trusting the process as an individual, yes, that is absolutely important, because whether it's an individual sport or a team sport, you have a specific
Mhm.
role that you have to do in the sports
Mhm.
world in order to be successful. There's no way around
Mhm.
that. But
Mhm.
trusting that process, like I said, doing the work during practice time, doing the work off the field, doing the work for your body, getting the proper sleep, the
Mhm.
proper nutrition. If you're a student athlete, using your mind academically, making sure you're eligible
Mhm.
to even be on the field
Yeah.
and things like
Yeah.
that. All those things go hand in hand to trusting the process, because if you do not buy into the process, you will never get your return on the investment. And that's crucial for teams. You always hear teams say, you're only as good as your weakest person. And that is
Ooh,
paramount. Go ahead.
Ronnie, when we say that, can't that or and I believe you're going to say yes, but when we talk about trusting the process from a team dynamic, like for us clinically, we know that that's a systemic mindset, right?
Mhm.
So we look at the performance of the team and we look at the health and strength of the team. Where, just based upon your own experience, I know you can't speak to every high school program in the country or even every college program in the country, but how much more important is it that the team is mentally well?
Hmm. It's extremely important. I think the real, well, not the real question, but the real answer is how many teams buy into that part, that
Mm,
you hear it. Of course, any sport or anything is, in a sport they say is 90% mental, 10% physical.
yeah.
But when we
It
even
doesn't
from
seem like that though, Ronnie.
do you want to know why I feel like that? And we might both say the same thing.
Mm,
It's like that because I think when we think about the mentality of athletes, the mentality of a team sport or just team in general,
mhm,
part of team success also means that individuals, not, and it's not always equal across the board, but certain
mhm,
individuals have to sacrifice more than others,
mhm.
mentally, physically, spiritually, and all that.
Okay.
So when we talk about the mentality of athletes, oftentimes it's being able to compartmentalize the adversity
Mm,
and just focus on the goal in mind of the team, of the sport. For
mhm.
example, like a lot of athletes, they could have chaos going on in their life,
Yeah.
but they know when they step on that field, they have to. There's no excuses. Coach don't
Mhm.
care that mom's struggling to pay bills at home. Coach don't
Yeah.
care that you didn't eat last. I mean, well, I'm not gonna say they don't care that you eat last night, but they don't care that you
Mm,
can't pay your bills and stuff like that. They
mhm,
just when you walk on that field, all I see is the back of your jersey, your name and your number, and I expect you to go
mhm,
out there and perform.
mhm,
So I think to answer your question, yes, the mentality of our athletes is extremely important. But I think we also have to really sit there and think about, okay, so what mentality are we gonna promote for our athletes? Are we gonna
mhm,
promote the mentality of no matter what happens, you still push through and it's for the team,
mhm,
it's for the sport? Or
mhm,
is it we're going to be mindful of that? Yes, you are a human being who is doing something that you don't have to do, but you're doing it, and
mhm,
you're trying to put it in the effort in the mind of the team because you're trying to trust the process
mhm,
without sacrificing your mental health.
mhm,
A lot of them sacrifice their mental health for the betterment of the team, but we sit there and say, oh, they're tough, they're tough mentally and stuff like that.
mhm,
What happens when you don't? What good is it to be mentally tough and sacrifice your mental health for a sport when you don't get to play that sport the rest of your life? What happens when
right.
adversity happens outside the sport and you can't go
Mhm,
rely on the sport to take care of it for you?
mhm.
Then what?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
that same mentality we have as athletes to sit there and just push through, that sounds
Mhm,
good. But that
mhm,
doesn't always equate to success in the real world either. Just putting off stuff, putting off stuff, putting off. Because how many times do we come across people that come in our offices who just put stuff off, put stuff off, put stuff off,
mhm.
and then it'd be one
Suppressing,
thing,
suppressing. Mhm,
and it changed the whole trajectory of their life because they just put stuff off and sacrificed mentally for the betterment of something else that they know won't be there forever. So I think, yeah, I think when we talk about trust the process, yeah, the mental has to be there. But then the other question is, what mentality are we going to influence? Are we going to influence the mentality? Like even Mamba mentality, great mentality and everything, great. But for those who sit there and think like, oh, I have to sacrifice everything for the betterment of this. No, that's not going to work in the long term. Yeah, you can dedicate all your time and stuff like that to your sport. That's fine and everything. But if you lose yourself in the process of trying to find that, do you really win?
Yeah. You know, I think it's the end of this month. We have on one of the upcoming shows, we actually have a former NFL player that's going to be on the show that's going to speak to that. That, you know, when do you, in essence, when do you draw the line in the sand concerning when is enough enough, right? And as you were speaking, what came to mind is, and I don't know why it connected for me this way. I don't know, but the way that it connected for me as you were speaking was how we as a nation treat our military veterans, and how they give everything, their mind, their body, their soul, and clearly their lives to protect this great nation. And then they come home and the mental health issues among veterans, the homelessness issues among veterans, it's egregious. It's egregious how we're failing them as a nation. And I just feel like there's so many athletic programs around the country at all levels of play that are putting these male and female athletes, you know, their minds, their bodies, their literally their blood, sweat, and tears on the field, on the court, on the baseball diamond, every single solitary day, week, month, year. And when it's over, it's over. And it's like, then what? And it's tragic. It's tragic.
And you see so many, and I think it's easy for, you know, just the average everyday person to sit there and look at, you know, even like a professional athlete. Like, how many times do we see professional athletes who will sit there and say on national TV, or, you know, just be like, yeah, no, this ain't easy. Like, this is hard. Like, y'all sit there and ridicule us and judge us and criticize us and critique us day in and day out. But you wouldn't dare walk out here and do the same thing I'm doing. It's easy. It's easy.
Look, won't, but can't.
And then turn around and get mad at us for complaining about, you know, like, yeah, this is not easy. This is hard, but I can't complain. I can't sit there and have feelings because from the outside looking in, because there's a price tag attached to what I do for everyday living. Oh, you feel like you can judge what I do or what I can and can't complain about. If I'm struggling to feed my family at home, or I come from a family that didn't have, why are you judging me if I'm sitting there telling you like I got a lot on my plate? Right. I had a bad game, but I got a lot on my mind, but y'all not trying to hear that.
It's like we're human beings, not workhorses.
You're supposed to go out there and perform. That's all you do. That's all you get paid to do is be an athlete. Okay, but that don't mean I'm absolved, or I don't have life stuff happen to me too.
So you know what it is, Ronnie? I think that it's an athletic culture that fuels the desire for levels of success that so many athletes strive for. And I take it back to Remember the Titans, where Louis Lastic came in. He was like, yo, I heard y'all say football and I could hit somebody. I'm here. He was just there for fun. He ended up going to the University of South Carolina on a full athletic scholarship, but he just loved playing sports for the fun of it. He wasn't worried about doing it as a job, which is what it becomes. And I think that the athletic culture, I'll speak to the US, you know, only. I think the athletic culture in this country at every level is by any means necessary. Even if it's your mind that you sacrifice. And I think it's horrible.
I mean, when you speak to it to that point, I mean, even as a professional athlete, I would imagine, you know, at the end of the day, you were putting your body on the line for a billionaire.
Yeah. How about
Like
that?
you're putting your body on the line for a billion. Now, granted, you know, if you have a successful career and stuff like that, maybe on the back end there are some benefits. You come back to the game, be on the coaching staff, get your name, you know, in the ring of honor in the stadium, whatever. You know, there might be benefits for that. But what about the player who was just a practice squad player and gave up the same amount, gave up the same sacrifices, had the same discipline, the same work ethic, and all that?
Yeah.
What do they get?
Yeah.
What do they get out of it? You know, and even at the college level, how many? That's why I always say, like, to your point, you always hear coaches say, you know, at the end of the day, go out there and have fun. I mean, yeah, I would like
zero fun, sir.
I would like to think that any of us that walk out on the field, yeah, we want to have fun. And it is fun, especially when you're winning. Right. But oftentimes, like, I think once again, like when we talked about just 10 minutes ago about the mental health of our student athletes and stuff like that, which mentality are we gonna bring awareness to? Are we gonna bring awareness to, like, yeah, we're out here performing, but mentally we're sacrificing so much that nobody cares, because if we don't perform out here, what's the point of it?
Right.
Like, I mean, imagine at a D1 level where, I mean, even all across D1 and D2, your scholarships are on a year-to-year basis. Right. But I mean, unless you do something egregious at a D2 school or D1 AA, you probably gonna get your scholarship every year as long as you contributed to the team the way you're supposed to. But imagine at the level of D1 where, like, you know, like it's literally like you are fighting for your starting job every single week. If you're at Alabama, you are fighting for your starting job every single week. If you have one bad week because of something that's going on at home, you may never get your spot back. Yeah. The coach ain't got time to understand that. The coach ain't got time to understand that you got things going on back home that are weighing on your mind. That's why you are a half a second slow on the tackle, or that's why you kick step one too far out and the guy ripped across your face and got the sack on the quarterback because you were distracted by outside things. Which is why we harp on this show so much, that these schools, that these athletic programs have to have people on staff that can tend to the student athletes' mental health specifically. I get some schools have sports psychologists and stuff like that, and they serve a role.
Took the words right out of my mouth.
Not all schools can afford a sports psychologist, but that don't mean me and you can't do the damn job either.
Well, here's the thing. And again, not taking anything from our colleagues that are serving in the sports psychologist capacity. However, the academic trajectory between a mental health counselor, a licensed clinical social worker, a couple marriage and family therapists compared to that of a sports psychologist is a very different academic trajectory. It's very different. The curricula is very, 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 very different. And the reality of it is that, yeah, definitely there are some conversations that a sports psychologist can have with an athlete that may be similar to mine, but they're not going to systemically process the information that's coming forth the same way that I would. They're just not. Yeah. They're just not going to. There are methodologies that we use based upon work that is grounded in family systems theory, in systems theory, and ecological systems theory that is very relevant in approaching the behaviors and what I call the primary domains of your life, Ronnie, your health and well-being, your relationships, your career, i.e., you know, in this case, your athletic career, how you're allocating your time, your financial situation. The approaches that I take to addressing all of those domains of an athlete's life, my whole approach is very different from that of a sports psychologist. It's very, very different. And I have the formal education and training and expertise to deep dive into the gutter of those things that are influencing the athlete's mindset beyond their athletic play. Because as you said, if home is an F5 tornado, you can zero in and have laser focus in the whole 9 yards. But I don't know about you, but when I watch sports, we can't turn our clinical brain off. I literally there, and you already know. Like I am watching Dak all right today? You all right today? I'm looking at eyes, I'm looking at body posture, I'm looking at how this, I'm watching all of that to see what I'm looking for any indication that the mental health of the players that I love so much at any given time, it seems off to me. And I will tell you that the times that I literally, Erica's like, babe, I'm like, I'm trying to tell you, he's up. I was like, we're not gonna win this game. We're not gonna win this game. No, for real. There have been times that because I'm like, I'm watching them like a hawk. The way they come onto the field, something is just off. Mm-hmm. You can see it when they're giving interviews and stuff. And I'm like, that's not just, something's off. You can see it.
Yeah.
You can see it. We have a trained eye to see it. If I can see it as a formally licensed, educated, and trained therapist and sports empowerment mental health coach, what are the teams doing, Ronnie?
I mean,
what are the teams doing?
Once like
I know we got these campaigns running. We got we rocking out with the campaigns.
Oh yeah.
But what's really going on? And I don't know. I'm not saying that to be facetious. Like I really, I'm right now. I'm not plugged into every college program. I'm not plugged into every NFL program. I'm not plugged into every high school program. But
we should try and get a sports psychologist on the show. I was thinking about that. We should try and get one on the show from like a bigger school, just to get their perspective on what they see from their, from being a sports psychologist. Because I mean, okay. I don't know all the ins and outs of what they do, but I do like to think that they're more of the sports performance focused. Okay. Where like I think for us, we're I love psychoanalysts, being a being a psychosocial counselor and stuff like that, where I can do that deep dive, I can do that CBT work, that DBT work with you, mindfulness training and things like that. Granted, I'm not sitting there saying that they don't do that. I don't know, but I think we should definitely. So our listeners out there, if y'all know a sports psychologist, tell them hit us up, because we would love to hear from them. Because I mean, we can make this a collaborative effort and ask them, like, look, we hear all the, like you said, all the promotion, all the advertisements about, we have our athletes' mental health,
it's a priority now.
But what I also know is being a former student athlete and just knowing and watching the landscape, that sounds good. But at the end of the day, sports is a business. The higher you go, if it don't make dollars and it don't make sense, they ain't doing it.
Right. That's right.
If they can be as cost effective and get the job done with the bare minimum resources that they need to just make a check mark, most will do that. And I think, once again, you get in what you put out. So if you are not investing in your student athletes' mental wellness at the level you should, but you want championship results, don't be mad when you don't end up in the playoffs.
Yeah. It's politics.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
It's politics. It's politics, and nobody can deny it. Well, they can, but I'm not gonna believe it. It's politics, and it's not politics, and dollars and cents are deadly, deadly, deadly bedfellows. They really, really are. So if I had to sum it up in a nutshell and put a bow on, I'm gonna let you go first. What do we want our athletes and our parents and our coaches and trainers and family members and fans to take away from the importance of trusting the process?
So I think one of the some of the takeaways I have really quick are, number one, at the end of the day, for any success, whether it's athletic success, personal success, career, whatever, academic, you have to understand that there has to be a level of work that you will be willing to commit to in order to be great. A lot of people are average. A lot of people are good, but very few are great. So you have to have a mindset and a work ethic that matches that of being great. That's number one. Yeah. Number two, like I said at the beginning, you have to understand the difference between motivation and discipline. Yeah. Motivation gets you started. Discipline helps you see it through.
That's right.
Because if you're only going off motivation, them TV dinners gonna run. They ain't gonna fill you up like a Thanksgiving meal. Remember that. Them TV dinners ain't filling you up like no Thanksgiving meal. So if all you run off is motivation, you will always be looking for something to get started, but you will never find something that will make you see it through. And so that's what I want to leave our listeners with today from me. What you got for us, Dr. Pitts?
I think that it's important for people to understand that trusting the process of success athletically, academically, and overall in life is going to require you to prioritize or either at least bring them to a level of equality, your mental health and your physical health. So oftentimes there's so much focus placed upon athletic success that the bulk of the emphasis is put on physical health without taking into consideration how critical it is to sustain mental health. And we see it. It's evident in the tragic stories that we hear and the behavior that we learn about that athletes are engaging in at all levels, because high school kids are doing some craziness too. Mm-hmm. And we have to make mental health a priority. One of the things that was stated, Ronnie, during slavery times was keep the body strong and the mind weak. Mm-hmm. And what I want to leave our audience with today is keep the mind strong, which will govern your footsteps to keep the body strong. Mm-hmm. They both have to be strong in order for you to be successful athletically, academically, personally, professionally, but most importantly, in life. Mm. That's all I have. Yeah, that's all I have.
Well, look, y'all, we had another great show, another great topic. Check it back here next week. Remember, check us also at 10 o'clock tonight, not during Quiet Storm, but during HSR, during Health Talk pregame time, all right? Check us 10 o'clock tonight, 6 p.m. tomorrow. We'll be back next week with a brand new topic and a brand new show. So everybody have a great weekend and a safe weekend. We'll talk to you then.
All right. Bye-bye, everybody. Thank you.